Good morning, everyone, and I hope you're enjoying some of the discussions this morning on a subject that is absolutely fascinating when you get into it. Sounds a little bit dry, but is so pivotal to your future, and we need to grip it up. We certainly need to be having lots of conversations and starting doing the plotting and planning, and that's what's happening down in Southland. And as I said, I'm so proud to be part of some of the efforts down there. I've always been pretty open about what I do. I went down there and just sort of briefed up a few of the media around the country on what was happening, and we've had some good media coverage. And I think we'll get more in the future simply because this is the subject for the future. And as a grandparent, you're always thinking when you hear ram raids and the state of poverty and crap that's going on in our society at the moment, you really worry about the future of your grandkids. And then you go down to something like the Mirahiku Regeneration Energy Wānanga, and you come back and you think, they're going to be okay. Because actually there's some people here thinking about not tomorrow, not next year, or not even next decade. They're thinking a lot longer than that, but they're putting in the bedrock right now to make it happen, and they're largely working together. And so we've got another piece of that puzzle in the community coalition, I would probably best describe it. And that is Chami, who is the chief executive of a thing called Great South, which is the economic development agency in Southland. So good morning, Chami.
Good morning, Tina. How are you?
I am very, very good. And I have got, it's not because I'm scared of pronouncing it, I haven't got the piece of paper with your last name on it.
Oh, that's okay. Look, it's a hard name. I married into it, so I chose it. I don't expect everybody to be able to pronounce it, but it is Abeysinghe.
Abeysinghe. Good. Got it. I'll remember that one now because I'm so embarrassed not having it in front of me. Now, everyone tells me you're doing a bloody good job down there with Great South, who have certainly been pivotal in running alongside Mirahiku Regeneration in this juggernaut of futuristic thinking around regenerative energy. So can you just tell us a little bit about Great South and where it sees things going in the future around this?
Absolutely. Well, firstly, thank you for the opportunity. It's great to be part of your show and be able to talk about what we do. So Great South is the regional development agency for Southland. It's a little bit different to an economic development agency, which is focused solely on economic development. What we do is around economic, but also social, environmental, and well-being as well. So we kind of like fall into the long-term planning pillars that our councils have to work under. We are a council-controlled organisation, which means that we do the bidding of our councils and our shareholders. And we have quite a large number of shareholders, representative from, agencies across our region, which is great for us because it enables us to put a regional lens on everything that we do. Now, the work that we do with Mirahiku Regeneration has been in the energy space, and we've developed Southland's regional energy strategy, which was in draft and in the process of going through the submissions against that draft. So a final version will be out very, very soon. So the collaboration that we have is to ensure that everybody's voice is heard, and we try to incorporate all of that as much as we possibly can within the piece of work that we do, so that it is truly something that everybody in Mirahiku can be so proud of and will work towards to implement.
And did you think the conference was going to be as big as it was?
Well, yes, I kind of got that inclination. I've been working pretty closely with the organisers and Mervyn English in particular, who's been kind of like my liaison, and Mike Shatford, who's coordinated the whole
He's my old boss.
So, yes.
It's the mafia, I tell you.
And that was explained actually this morning when Mervyn spoke with the session that I chaired about how he's been roped into Terry Nicholas's mafia.
That's right. So Terry Nicholas is well, I'm Ngaitahu, so we're not we're not absolute relations, but we're sort of cousins. So it is a bit of a mafia, and of course then Merv English has joined the cult as well, or the mafia as well, which has been great because Merv, I mean, he could have been Prime Minister. He's a bloody good bugger, Mervyn. Quite like him. So he's Bill English's brother. I'm not going to say he's Bill English's, the Prime Minister's brother, because Merv English stands on his own 2 feet, and he's a mover and a groover, and he's really been pivotal in some of this stuff. So that's the thing. I mean, it's all these amazing people who just come together and they just cut through stuff, and that's what I love. It's been fab.
Yes, it has been fab, and what I would like to say is like these two, like yesterday was a lot of thought-provoking conversations about what we need to do, where we need to be, and today is more about how we're going to do it as a region and how we're going to prioritize it, and so where is that leadership going to come from, and those really hard sort of topics and people, things that people shy away from normally are out there with 200 plus people to talk about, nut it out, and then, we'll get to an understanding and a direction and a way forward. And it's all been enabled by Muriku Regeneration. And it's like an absolutely fantastic expo. And it has been much more than what I expected. And it really has taken us maybe 100 steps forward.
Yes, I think so too. The other issue though with it is, I suppose, and it's interesting because I was just talking to Sally Brooker, who's the chair, I think it is, of the German New Zealand Alliance around energy stuff and specifically hydrogen, and she talks about the Taranaki is the other area that's getting on with a lot of this stuff. So there's these two areas of New Zealand who are way ahead of the game on everyone else. And I must admit, I'm feeling quite sad for the likes of the Wairarapa right at the moment, for the very reason that they've got all of this opportunity, but they lack the leadership to move things forward like Southland and Taranaki are. Now, both of them, and I think maybe it's got something to do with the fact that Taranaki has a lot of energy resources anyway, and Southland has the smelter, which was really the catalyst for Terry and Michael getting together and going, we just can't let this happen unless we plan for what's going to happen afterwards, which was the original conversations around Muriku Regeneration. But we need this to pepper pot throughout the rest of the country so we all get on board about talking about how we build the better future. And so when you're an economic development agency, how do you operate or work with other economic development agencies across the country to share some of that stuff?
So that's a really good point, Tina. What we are doing is building as we go, sort of like a footprint of how we could, or a process of how we could do things and how we should be doing things, and then enabling that information to be given to our other agencies across the country. We've already got a piece of work that we're talking to Northland and various other sort of, maybe 2 other regions, on how we can collaborate and use the IP that we have and the sort of expertise that we have in this section, in this sector, to help them progress their own pathway forward. Every region's a little bit different, as you identified. Taranaki and Southland had 2 major scenarios to, propel us into the situation that we are in now. Both of us are undergoing just transition processes from events other than environmental impacts, which is what now the Just Transition program is going to be rolled out far wider within our New Zealand, within our country, so that, whatever it is, if there's a major impact to the people and the communities living within those regions, then there has to be an alternative, and how do we make that happen? So conversations are really ongoing. It's not something that we want to keep close to our chest and only to us. This is what we're doing is for Southland. If our energy, when the Southern Green Hydrogen project goes ahead, and some of the data and statistics that are being shown now is TY stays and Southern Green Hydrogen goes ahead, we will still have excess power and energy to provide to the rest of the world. So the minister yesterday, when she made her announcement and gave us a bit more detail about the $100 million for hydrogen, it was around that conversation. It may be generated in Southland or in Taranaki or wherever, but it could be consumed within New Zealand, wherever it is needed.
Yeah. And I thought that was really interesting. It did come out of left field, though I had a journalist sitting beside me and he was like, oh, I hadn't heard that one before. So he was like, he's just written, I just noticed his name's Brent Melville, he works for Business Desk, and he's just written a story about it which can only be accessed behind the paywall, which is a bit of a bummer. I might have to talk to Patrick Smelly about at least letting us have one of the articles out public. But it was quite an interesting topic, and people hadn't really digested it, I don't think, yesterday that well. Because there was so much happening. So I suspect that's going to be hotly poured over as they work out just exactly what sort of advantage that Southland can play. Now, back to the just transitions, because I was being a bit harsh on them a wee bit this morning. So we're doing a project on Stewart Island, and it's had Kanoa funding, and Just Transitions hasn't been involved with us so much, but I've always known that they're there. But I always have a bit of a jaded view of government departments being in control of community destinies. So when they announced the funding for Just Transitions, I thought, well, that's a bloody stupid idea, because you just got a government that's just giving money to a government department, which is essentially, or a government agency type thing buried in a government department. And I was a little bit nonplussed, because I thought that the money could have probably gone to either you or Murihiku Regen, and then the community could have had a much better focus on what is required. But listening to you're saying that actually Just Transitions does do some good stuff.
Yes, so, I mean, my involvement with, or Great South's involvement with Just Transitions is about providing that long-term plan. Yeah. And the government has indicated that they're giving us some money to now implement the plan. So the first part of the job was to write up the plan, which will be launched on the 28th of June. Yeah. And going forward, the work doesn't stop there, which is a really good indication that the government wants to see us succeed, irrespective of whether TY stays or not. So what we're doing is the wider picture, that long-term lens that you spoke about earlier, with the 20-year sort of plan or 30, 40-year sort of plan in play, but getting those actions done now. So we will be able to set some foundations and then get, the various projects up, from the ground and build it up and get it activated. So Just Transitions has 7 work streams. The long-term plan was just one of them, but I think across all 7 there are elements of funding that are coming from the government. Right. So you will see some good projects coming out. I think, the details of where that money is going and who is it going to is yet to be finalised, but the commitment's there, and I feel that that's a really good sort of stepping stone for us to get our communities activated and then taking that forward for the next 5-10 years.
Now, this may not be your job, but I just wonder whether it's going to come out in some of these reports. And it was something that I think it was John, I can't remember his last name, from Transpower said yesterday. In the life cycle of getting new transmission in, it's a 7-year cycle, and 2 years of that is building, and 5 years is getting the permissions. And there was talk yesterday about having specific region, almost economic zones where there was a difference around how processes government processes could be used. So I sort of saw that as maybe a relaxation of some of the RMA stuff if it was related to renewable resources or things that an infrastructure that supported renewable resources would be a classic one, and things like that. So in the reports that you're looking at, are you looking at the systemic problems that stop development now as part of some of that work that you're doing? Because you can have all of the bloody strategy you like and all of the really good ideas, but if you can't get over those bloody hurdles, we're going to fall over.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Hear you loud and clear and agree with you 500%. With the long-term plan, one, we have three core areas that we believe we need to focus on, and that's people, environment, and economy. But to enable the work around those three core areas, we've got 5 enablers, and one of them is energy, and that's quite relevant to what's going on in Southland at the moment. But the other one is about regulatory and policies and enabling people to come here, set up their businesses, get it all streamlined, not having them to go to 500 different agencies to find out what they have to do, and then, being sent on that real loop where nothing gets done.
Yep.
And that's why it takes 5 years to get something done.
Yep.
So how we could support and advocate, and which is what it's one of our tasks, it's one of our core functions, what we will do to support the region to streamline those.
Yep.
And definitely talk, raise, and, have those submissions on behalf of our region to the RMA process as it's being reviewed, and ensuring that we can streamline it as much as possible.
That's right, because the aquaculture project, the Hine, can't remember the bloody name now. I should know because it's our mountain. Yeah, Hananui. It just escaped me again. Not too good with names today. Hananui's been put on a fast track, which is great.
Yes, it has.
And that's what needs to happen. I mean, all of these really cool ideas, but the process to get on the fast track was a bit bloody long. So, at the end of the day, fast track. Well, what's a fast track if it's a slow road to the fast track? So I suspect we could probably shorten that one up too. Hey, look, I could probably talk to you for quite some time, but we probably need to end it there, and you probably need to get back into the conference to hear some more of that great conversation that's happening. So look, thank you very much. I'd love to meet you in person, and your chair is also a very good mate of mine, Ian Collier, another man who pushes through the ceilings around the place as well, and I love working with him. He's on one of my boards, so it was just so cool working with and being with all of those people in the last 72 hours. It sort of filled my tank again anyway, and thank you very much for being part of that. And
thank you for having me on your show. It's an amazing privilege. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you.